Today I fucked up by telling a black lady the carriers are only for the whites on mobile, so sorry for formatting and such. This happened last week and I still wince when I think about it. I run a smoothie truck in a smallish southern city in the US. I was fairly busy making several drinks with my back to my service window. Next to my machine I have several drink carriers with handles. The lady sees them and asks if she can have the carrier with handles for her drinks. I tell her I'm sorry, but those carriers are only for the whites. As soon as the words left my mouth I could have died. I dropped the smoothie I was working on and did an about face so fast the truck rocked. I looked at the lady, the black lady, and just started apologizing, trying to explain. The whites are a family of 7. The father comes by twice a week, gets drinks for the family, and at some point he bought and gave me X amount of carriers for him to use to make his trips easier. Turns out she knows the whites, she goes to church with them. Thank you, Jesus. She couldn't have been nicer over the ordeal, and I still feel horrible about the whole thing. I have since put the carriers out of view. Too long didn't read. I told a black lady the drink carriers are only for the white family, but made it sound like they were only for the white families. When I was in 6 or 7, we had Chris White in my class, who was black, and Chris Brown, who was white. It took us kids half the school year to get over that. I had 2 teachers in particular during different years. 5th grade was Mrs. White, who was black, and 7th grade was Mr. Black, who was white. In 8th grade, I looked on my schedule to see a Mr. Green. I was like, oh shit. I walked into my apartment building staffed at the time by a black woman talking to my girlfriend about Christmas lights. The debate was white versus multicolored lights. I opened the door mid-sentence and the woman heard me shout, "I can't believe you don't like the coloreds. I know them, the dad makes meth." A friend of mine has the last name White. He married his GF who had Metis heritage and had been fighting for her status for several years, finally receiving it just weeks before the wedding. Everyone in both families knew of her literally years-long struggle to be recognized by the government. My buddy's dad made the welcome to the family speech and noted after her years-long struggle to attain her Metis status, today she had become a white woman all over again. Used to work at a recycling facility. One time I refused service to a black customer and explained I couldn't take his materials because we were a segregated facility. Didn't realize how horrible that sounded until it was out of my mouth. Segregated only recycling centers can only process segregated materials. As in he had to separate his load into each type of metal and plastic before I could accept it. I'm not 100% sure he believed my explanation. Oh God. This was not today but last winter. I am in Ohio so it gets very cold. A funny tale of accidental racism. I work as a night nurse at a busy hospital. A good friend / co-worker of mine is from Liberia in Africa. We will call him Jim. We had been friends for a few years before this and my friend had just gotten back from a month-long trip to Liberia to see his family. We had just finished a crazy night shift and were walking out to our cars outside the hospital. Now this being pre-corona, the parking lot was swarming with patients, families and workers coming in for their day shift. It was about 20 degrees Fahrenheit, 7°C, out that morning and snow was coming down like mad. So Jim starts walking more towards his car and I towards mine. It being so cold I shout out, "Hey, I bet you wish you were back in Africa, huh Jim?" It took me about 2 seconds to realize how bad that sounded. As I look around to see if anyone noticed, about 6 people were looking at me baffled. The next day I told him what happened and all the looks I got, and man did he have a good laugh. Too long didn't read. I yelled something at a coworker that sounded kinda racist out of context. Coworker thought it was funny. Edit, thanks for all the likes and comments guys. I need to sleep but I am glad some of you got a chuckle. For those who don't see the racism part, I totally get it. It was more the other people's reaction that made it feel like they thought I was racist. If that makes any sense. But anyway, racism is very fucked. Love each other, damn it. There used to be a camera store called Black's Photography. I had beef with the company because they screwed me out of a $400 camera with repair crap. So one day I'm walking in the mall with a friend, and as we pass the store I loudly exclaim, "Uck, I fucking hate blacks," which got me not a few head turns and disgusted looks. I was confused and kept walking, and then realized what I had said, but it was too late. I was the loud racist in the mall that day. I've done the same. Friend of mine at work had just been back to Nigeria to see family, and was now back in the UK, mid-January. It was cold in the office, and he was sat at his desk in a coat, looking a bit silly. I walk past, shaking my head, and say should have stayed in Africa. The look I got from the white manager walking the other way was hilarious. Was definitely a "I'm glad I'm not your manager, as I don't have the time to spend the afternoon talking to HR about you" type look. Something similar happened to me, but I was on the other end of it. Thing you should know, I wear black everything every day, right down to my socks, since the 8th grade. I'm at work, fairly new job. Winter transitions into spring towards summer. Co-workers start wearing brighter colors and I start to really stick out. So my manager, who's pretty cool, walks up to me during my break and says, "I guess you're just one of those black people, aren't you?" 2 beats later she realized what she said, and the look on her face, glorious. Pure panic. Then came the stuttering. As much as I was enjoying it, I let her off easy. But she just left me alone for a while, which was fine by me because it was all I could do not to crack up every time she walked past my desk. Are you also black as in race? This story is hilarious either way. I was teaching an American history class to a multi-ethnic class of junior high schoolers. Our section was on the civil rights movement of the 1960s. In a discussion of Martin Luther King and his genius and perseverance, I posed the question, what if MLK backed down under pressure from President Johnson and said, "I can't handle the pressure, okay, fine, white people are better than black people." At okay, fine, a black student walked in the class, stopped dead in his tracks and said, "What the hell?" Imagine his surprise as the whole class burst into laughter. Almost the exact same story. The local gas station was run by a guy from Nigeria. From September to June he wouldn't stop complaining. "Hey Ahmed, how's it going?" "Oh man, it's so cold. I hate it here. I want to go back home." Back when the Powerball lottery was at something like $900 million, I decided to play. In a crowded convenience store part of the gas station, Ahmed asked what I would do with the money. "Oh, you know," I said as I walked to the door with my ticket, "pay off family mortgages, start a foundation, that kind of thing." I walked outside and immediately remembered one thing I would certainly do with the money. I stuck my head back into the store and in front of a crowd of people, who didn't know the context, I shouted, "Hey Ahmed, I'll definitely make sure you go back to Africa." I was making myself a stir-fry today and accidentally poured way too much vegetable oil into the pan. I hadn't put anything else in, so I poured most of it out into a bowl. I left it on the counter and began making my food. A couple minutes later, I heard gagging noises coming from the counter next to me. Looked over to see one of the little gremlins drinking the vegetable oil. He was lapping it up and gagging as he drank. As I watched in horror, he hopped down from the counter, spilling the oil all over his body. And of course, since they're tiny monsters, they decided it was the perfect time to cuddle and groom one another. Gremlin 1 licked his fur buddy all over, making sure as much surface area as possible was covered, while Gremlin 2 purred and rubbed up against Gremlin 1, coating both from head to toe. Now they're dashing around the house. They're impossible to catch. Monsters are coated all over with oil. They're shiny and slippery and hyperactive. I'm trying to chase them down and wiping up their tiny oily paw prints as I type this. If I can herd them into the bathroom, I might stand a chance. Every surface in the house is covered in oil. TL, doctor, my gremlins are covered in oil. I'm chasing them. They're like snakes. Edit, the slippery kittens are locked in the bathroom with water and litter boxes now. I've wiped them off a bit, using Dawn dish soap, THX everyone, and I'm going to give them a proper bath later today. I'm waiting a bit on the bath so I can get some help. Probably not a good idea to bathe kittens without backup. Fortunately neither has experienced any digestive issues yet, hoping it stays that way. Edit 2, The gremlins are washed now. They were surprisingly sweet about it. They complained a bit, but mostly stayed in place as we washed them. We had a little incident with Gremlin 2 trying to climb the shower curtain when we first put him in, but he calmed down quickly. It was hot today, so they'll dry off quickly. Was making Velveeta mac and cheese once, and was just about to pour the sauce. Out of the corner of my eye I see a wind-up butt wiggle. The small stray we recently had adopted is aiming to jump and land on the front corner of the stove top, where the freshly used burner is still hot. In slow motion, I snatch the cat out of midair, avoiding any burnt toes. I am a hero. Except, not to the cat. I was holding the open Velveeta cheese sauce pack, and I clapped it against the cat in the act of catching her. Now there is a cheesy cat running around. Cat is grabbed and taken to the shower. We lost our built-up trust for a while on that one. Your life is now just oiled kittens. Accept it and move on. Excuse you, op. Cat tax. Pictures. Cat post requirement. I used to leave pork rendering by the stove for cooking. Well, I got a cat, named Budrow, and one day while I was at work he got up and licked an entire bowl clean. I don't know how much in volume, but imagine a normal cereal bowl full of pork rendering licked clean. He never had any adverse effects that I could tell, but he always came running afterwards when he smelled bacon. Great cat, I miss him.